Stephen Beck, a native of South Korea, became a new American on the birth date of his adopted nation. Beck was one of 54 immigrants who swore an oath of allegiance to the United States on July 4th under the bright morning sun on the mountaintop at Monticello, President Thomas Jefferson's estate. Friends and family, many dressed in red, white, and blue, gathered in support of their loved ones taking the oath of citizenship at the 61st annual naturalization ceremony held at the site.
Raise your right hand. I hereby declare on oath that I absolutely and entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, potentate, state or sovereignty.
Like Jefferson, Beck is a scientist and engineer and is an associate professor of data science at the University of Virginia, founded by Jefferson, now run by University President Jim Ryan. In short, Beck's work focuses on analyzing shapes or geometric data to explain phenomena and solve problems big and small. Living in the U.S. has broadened the possibilities for his work. President Ryan gave an address welcoming Beck and other new Americans.
To learn someone's story, you only need ask, but it's best done directly and in person. And it's amazing what you will learn. Just take all of you here who are about to become new citizens. Without asking, one would never learn about Stephen from South Korea, who struggled at first to get his footing, but soon fell in love with the American people and eventually came to the University of Virginia to pursue an academic career.
So I wanted you to paint a picture for us. You're a native of South Korea.
That's right.
I wanted you to go back to the moment where you wanted to come to the U.S. What was going through your mind and where were you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think that was almost 10 years ago, back in 2014, I guess. I was looking for a job. I was just out of the graduate school and I wanted to find a job. I was about to get married with my wife and we're kind of having a lot of conversations about what is going to be our future and, those kind of things. We kind of like the idea of having an experience outside of Korea. And I personally had a lot of curiosities about the American culture and the people here because I grew up watching a lot of Hollywood movies. My dad was a huge movie fan. So I still remember every weekend we would go to a videotape rental stores. You don't find those nowadays, but we had those a lot back in Korea. And we would rent 5-6 videos and then we would watch movies.
So Hollywood was a big influence. What did you kind of glean about American culture through movies, and what were some of your favorites?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the movies that I enjoyed the most are the ones like Die Hard and all these action movies. And I guess we watched a lot of comedy movies. We watched almost every film of Robin Williams. So I think we've seen a lot of variety of different things from those movies. I don't know. It was clearly different from the Korean culture. We felt like the American culture depicted in those movies were more free, more willing to express their thoughts and their feelings, as opposed to, Asian culture is more like you stay quiet. They're rather shy in expressing their feelings and things like that.
So since childhood, through all these movies,
Right.
you've always wanted to at least come here and see how life was.
Yeah, at least I wanted to at least visit and look around. On my bucket list was plan to have a road trip in the U.S. I never thought I would live here, but here I am. Yeah. So it's been an experience.
And so you came here to teach at University of Iowa in 2015.
2015, yes.
And that would have been around the time where, Trump was, right before election. A lot of, I would say, racist rhetoric, a lot of intolerance, a lot of bigotry, and that was coming through even international media. Did that shape your opinion of the U.S. or influence your choice to come here?
Korea has a similar political system. We do have other parties, but it's mostly like Republicans versus Democrats. So we do have a similar political system. So I kind of knew like what the people on the conservative side would think and what the people on the liberal side would think. So I had that vague understanding, but I didn't know exactly what was like the social issue or anything in the US. So not knowing was a blessing, I guess. Plus, I personally had a fortune of meeting with a lot of good people. So I personally didn't feel any of those, bigotry or racism or anything like that. Of course, I cannot generalize my experience to other immigrants.
Iowa has a reputation for that Midwestern warmth. Was there anything that really surprised you in the way you and your wife were welcomed, an experience that really was like, wow, these people are really warm and really nice?
My wife was pregnant when we first arrived in the United States, and we didn't have any friends or family here. So we honestly had a hard time, but people around us were really willing to help us in many different ways. And I thought that was really, really amazing because I grew up in a big metropolitan city in South Korea.
Which city was that?
It's a city called Daegu, and it's the third largest city, if I remember the statistics correctly. The third largest city in South Korea. We had a population of about 2.4 million. I think, Korean society is really highly populated. There's so many people. And I guess compared to Americans, we're like shy and don't really speak to strangers unless you're really close. They don't really speak to each other. Versus here, like everyone was like willing to help, ask a lot of questions about us, and things like that.
Your new parents, you're here by yourselves. I mean, you think of extended family as a support system. Your in-laws are in South Korea, your mom. Everybody. How did your new, American support system really come through for you?
So in Asian culture, we don't usually advertise those kind of things like, oh, we're having a baby or anything like that, because we also concerned that might cause some unnecessary, I don't know, like if I tell you that we're having a baby, then you'll have to worry about, oh, what kind of present should I prepare? And I guess in Asian culture, that is a burden that you unintentionally give to your neighbors and your friends. Somehow they all knew that, we're having a baby, and they offered present, they offered like, oh, do you guys need anything? In my experience, this little product helped us a lot. Have you looked into this? I mean, like they offered a lot of suggestions, pieces of information. They wrote letters to us, the birth of our child, and all those kind of kind gestures. And I think all of those were important factors that contributed to us kind of forming a positive first impression to this new country that we're living in.
We, the people, are part of a quest to form, as the Constitution says, a more perfect union. That quest continues as America has never been and is not perfect. We as a country, for example, have not always welcomed immigrants with open arms. We the people have mistreated the native peoples of this land and have exploited enslaved laborers, including here at Monticello. We the people across the centuries have both delayed and denied justice for too many. There is not a single neat story that sums up this country any more than there is a single neat story that sums up anyone's life.
So you decided to come to Virginia in 2021.
That's correct.
Teaching at University of Virginia. That is right after 2020, where we have obviously the pandemic. News was not the most flattering thing. A lot of portrayal of xenophobia toward Asians. Even though you didn't experience that personally, what was it like reading about it?
When I read those articles, of course, my immediate reaction was like, how can even this kind of thing will be possible? And, this is outraging and, yada, yada, yada. But in the end, I've been trying to convince myself that people around me are all good people. And I'm blessed that I have such great friends and neighbors and colleagues. And in my day-to-day life, I don't really, experience any of those, things.
Surely you miss home at times. What do you do when you miss things about home?
I miss people mostly. Like all of my friends are in Korea, all of my family members are in Korea. The other thing is food. Korea has a really great food. We have a huge variety of options. Both my wife and I were seafood fans, and now it's better because now that we're in Virginia and we have a close access to the coast. But back in Midwest, it was very tough.
Is there any specific dish that you've been on the hunt for that you wish a restaurant would do well here?
We need good sushi. Sushi is something that we really enjoy. Like, and Korea has a different way of enjoying sushi and sashimi. So the main difference between Japanese version and the Korean version is that the Japanese version, you let it rest for several hours before to make sushi or sashimi, versus in Korea, like right off the, like if you go to a restaurant, they literally have an aquarium filled with fish, and what they would do is just grab one like right in front of you and then prepare your meal.
Literally the freshest sushi.
The freshest, yeah, you could have.
You mentioned it being hard being away from family. I would think particularly with a 7-year-old, your parents are such a support system. I mean, I was close to my grandmother, very close.
Yeah.
Is it hard to not have that support system with a 7-year-old here?
Yeah, I guess that's the hardest part. When her granddads first saw her, it was right after her birth. So she was like 6 months old. And then next time when her granddad, saw her, she was already like 3-4 years old. And then most recently it was 6 years old. You know how fast kids grow, right? Every month, every week, every day is different for little kids. But to my parents and to my parents-in-law, my daughter is like a snapshot. And also, I think the support system is what really matters to the little kids. Not having that access sometimes is what makes me feel bad for my kid, because there's a lesser interactions, especially before the school age. Usually what would happen is you get to talk to your grandma, your uncle, your aunt, and that's how you learn to socialize. Versus in our case, it was just 3 of us. For my daughter, there was not a lot of people to talk to.
And then through, COVID and all that, she's not getting any kind of FaceTime.
And then COVID hit. I was honestly a little worried about her. And then at home, since my wife doesn't speak English very well, we usually speak in Korean. And before the school age, my daughter only spoke Korean for an obvious reason. So we were a little worried. And then by the time when my daughter finally became an age to go to school, COVID hit. And I was actually quite concerned about her lack of exposure to all the social interactions and things like that. But it turned out I worried for nothing. Daughter did incredibly well. I'm very proud of her.
Immigrants and new citizens have enriched this country for well over 2 centuries. From Alexander Hamilton to Albert Einstein to Madeleine Albright to Sergey Brin, the co-founder of Google. They wrote their own stories and in so doing touched the lives of millions. Your fellow authors have also included acclaimed musicians, actors, authors, athletes, and architects like Irving Berlin, Gloria Estefan, Selma Hayek, Dikembe Mutombo, Isabel Allende, Dave Matthews, and Ian Pei. Now, it may be that none of you will play in the NBA or become a famous singer or actor. If it makes you feel better, I won't either. But those who are famous simply did what all of you can do: combine talent and hard work to take advantage of the opportunities in front of you and write the story that you want to be your own.
So you obviously sacrificed a lot of personal connections and time with family, a lot of distance coming here, but the work opportunities were huge. You as a scientist and an engineer, this was the ideal place for you to be. How has being in the U.S. really helped you in your research and your work?
U.S. is dominant in my field. I read a lot of articles, a lot of papers and things like that, but there was not a lot of chance to communicate with those people or build a network with them or things like that. What surprises me, and I feel thankful about it here, is that I can just pick up a phone and talk to those big names in my, scientific community, even like grab a cup of coffee and, have a chat and exchange ideas.
Is there anything different about the approach to science here that has been helpful, the approach to research and idea sharing and funding?
In Korea, and actually, as a matter of fact, many other countries, the definition of engineering is, given a limited resource, how can we extract the maximum out of it? It is all about optimizing. It is all about improving the existing system to be more efficient, effective, and those kind of things. Versus here, I guess the definition of engineering is creating something new. And people, interestingly, have completely different mindset. In, I guess, other countries, when someone has an idea, I think the idea will get evaluated from the perspective of, is it optimal given the resources given to us? Versus here, I think the mindset is this a new idea? Is this a new, cool, exciting idea?
The United States has a story unlike any other country, as it's a nation formed around a core set of principles rather than around a group with a common identity or ancestry. Like generations before you, today you will become an American citizen not because of your bloodlines, but because of your embrace of those principles. Like the principle that all are created equal and have the inalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Jefferson, you teach at UVA. You swore an oath to this nation at Monticello, his estate. He was a scientist and engineer who founded this university. What do you think he would say about today, how people come to this country, some of the greatest minds to share these ideas and practice in their field? What do you think Jefferson would say about you and your story?
I don't know what he would say about me, but I think the UVA in general, I think he'll be proud of what's going on right now. At the core of Jefferson's idea was this ideal that everybody come together, like the whole concept of academical village, for example. Everybody gathers around, students, faculty, and then have free discussions and exchange ideas. That was the building block, like the foundational basis of Jefferson's idea of creating the University of Virginia. And that's exactly what's happening here at UVA. And I think compared to Jefferson's time, now it's even more diverse.
And I wanted to go to the 4th. I mean, the ceremony was beautiful and touching and amazing. I noticed when the Reverend was reading the Declaration of Independence, I think I saw you, your eyes were closed and your head was bowed. You seemed really reverent in that moment. What were you thinking?
Well, I was actually reading the full text of the Declaration of Independence, and then I was reading carefully what was written there, because I have to admit that was my first time actually reading the full text.
That's powerful for that to be your first exposure to one of our most important founding documents with principles that are at the center of the egalitarian society that we want in the U.S. What were some of your feelings going through your head reading that and hearing that for the first time?
That event was a great reminder that America is such a diverse society in the country where immigrants with different backgrounds all gathered up and work hard and achieve this shared goal of building a society where individuals can pursue their happiness and their dreams. In that group of new citizens, I could see a lot of different people from really diverse, really different backgrounds. And I thought that was really a powerful thing, because by tolerating and embracing those different people, different thoughts, different talents, I think that's the way a society can grow. So I guess that was what was in my mind.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light?
I'm host and producer Leah Small. Virginia Voices is a project of the Virginia Center for Investigative Journalism at WHRO. Executive producers are Christopher Tyree and Louis Hansen. The podcast is edited by Chris and myself. Virginia Voices is made possible through a grant by Virginia Humanities and donors like you. You can read the story and see photos from today's show and past episodes on our website, vcij.org, which is linked in our bio. We hope that if you like these conversations, you'll subscribe to Virginia Voices, where we'll continue to share the stories of Virginia citizens whose lives are impacted by the news of the day. On behalf of everyone here at the Virginia Center for Investigative Journalism, thank you for your time and support.